guys, I'm going to show you real quick here. Genesis chapter 12, 13, 14. It's the entire story of the history of from Abraham to the captivity of Babylon. Pretty much the history of the Old Testament. Starting with the called race. If you look at the first 3 verses of chapter 12, this is the new style, you will see this is the beginning of chapter 12. if we start from where we're at, and it's the promise that's given to Abraham, or Abram in this case. So what we can do is we'll start out with verse 4. So Abram went as Jehovah had spoken to him, and Lot with him. Now this Lot guy, very, very important. Lot means covering, concealment, hidden. It's a heart that's away from God, in the sense you will see as we come up here, because we realize the history of Israel with the Lord is a matter of a romance. And even the history of the Bible is romance. It's a romance of God and man, and has everything to do with our heart being established. And our heart's turned has a lot to do with God's move and his preservation of his people. Okay. Let's stick with the coleslaw right now. Okay. So, Abram took Sarah his wife and Lot his... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Now, Abram was 75 years old when he went out of Haran. 75, you can think of as 3 times 25. 25 is 5 times 5, so it's sort of responsibility among 3 groups of people in a covenant, which Abraham, when he gets his name changed, we'll see in Genesis 17, was this all-inclusive covenant of the nations of Israel and the church. But let's get back to this. He went out of Haran. Now, Haran was also a son of Terah, who died before Terah, and the land of his birth, which was Ur of the Chaldees in Babylon. And so, here being where Abram left, in this case, from Haran, it also says that Terah died in Haran. So, in a sense, Haran is in Babylon, but it's not. Why? Because there was a called race now. There was something separated from the background of Genesis 11. Corporate rebellion. Tower of Babel. Excuse me. Lord. No, I shouldn't be eating too much. Especially when you gotta speak. Okay. So Abram took Sarah his wife and Lot his brother's son and all their possessions that they had gathered and the souls that they had acquired in Haran, and they went out to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. And this is sort of a general story all the way up pretty much to Genesis chapter 22. Why do we do that? Because in verse 6 we see this matter of a matchup to where Abraham offered Isaac on Mount Moriah, the temple site. Believe it or not, and that's exactly where he offered it. You know, whoops, coincidence, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So, what is that? I just don't remember having any kind of like vinegar deli sandwich, you know. Anyways, yes. Oh, Abraham passed through the land of Shechem to the oak of Moreh. And at that time, the Canaanites are in the land. Now, this is Genesis 22. And here's how we're going to do this. Shechem means shoulder. Okay. And the other time where shoulder is really mentioned as far as a need of God's administration as well is with Benjamin. And there was a prophecy there about him being the shoulder to where Jehovah would dwell. And he dwelled in the Holy of Holies in the temple in Jerusalem. And Jerusalem's right there, the shoulder holding that. Right? So that's Judah. Right? It's there. Again, I think it was Washington, D.C. and stuff, but it's not, you know. Okay? So that's Shechem to the oak of Moreh. Now, the oak is going to be that split oak that was given for Isaac. And going up there, just one oak. We will see the oaks of Mamre here coming up, which is the temple, it's a sign of the temple, where the temple was built. But right now, this is just chapter 12. And that's probably me as far as I'm going to go, because I got to eat this coleslaw. And we'll just see what you guys want to do. We'll go further. I'm pretty much just a lazy guy. Pardon me. Alright. Rock on. Now, Moreh, instructor, guide, leader. This is exactly what was going on with Abraham. Instructing him, guiding him, leading him. Right? And even instructing him when it's a matter of offering up Isaac. You know, kind of the epitome of Abraham's experience, really, with the Lord. Wow. Was the offering up of Isaac. Because it led to something corporate at his house, which we see in the genealogy at the end there in Genesis 22 with the 8. Ending with Bethel, the house of God, and Bethel's daughter is Rebecca, type of the church. Okay? Back to Genesis 12. At the time, the Canaanites were in the land. So this is also the point of when, right, before Joshua and the Israelites, but it's specific here, showing that this is the spot. But the Canaanites represent the fallen angels. Wow. And the gate, you know, Bethel was also called the gate of heaven. And we also will see with Rebecca, she will possess the gate of her enemies. The gate is the part of the heaven reaching the earth. And that's where the battle is. That is why the Lord told us to pray, your kingdom come, your will be done. You see what I'm saying? Where? On the earth. As in heaven, it is in heaven. Will of God's being executed. Now it needs to be executed here on earth. And that's why he created man. And that's our responsibility. To let them have dominion. Whew. Verse 7. Okay. Just kind of skim through that. Jehovah appeared to Abraham and said, to your seed I will give this land. And he built an altar to Jehovah who had appeared to him. Now, that was a promise in as far as the seed. The land wasn't necessarily the thing because it was on the land that Isaac was offered. But this is in reference to the seed of Isaac. So we got Abraham, we got Isaac, right? And he built an altar to Jehovah who had appeared to him. And there it was, where we had the ram caught in the thicket, signifying Christ, who was caught in the thicket of humanity, you know, the thorns, signifying he became a curse for us, who become the righteousness of God in 2 Corinthians 5:21. Moving on. Okay. Now after Isaac, what do we have? We have Jacob. Okay, and that's going to be in verse 8. Okay, we'll make it. And he proceeded from there so verse 8, proceeded there from the mountain on the east of Bethel. And he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west, Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Jehovah and called upon the name of Jehovah. Okay, well, Bethel is Genesis 28. This is a key moment. First dream in the Bible. Key moment in Jacob's life, especially where his heart was. He saw the birthright. He wanted the birthright. But he tricked his brother. He's out like a fugitive, wandering in the wilderness, lands on a stone, and he sees a vision of an angel of God ascending and descending on a ladder, which Christ reveals in John 1:51 that he, as the Son of Man, is the heavenly ladder joining heaven and earth. And what Jacob calls that was the house of God, the mingling of God and man. Now, that was a dream. When he woke up, he said, man, this place is awesome. Okay. Sets up the stone, pours oil on it, and calls it Bethel. All right? And the house of God. But it wasn't Bethel in its manifestation. That was a dream. But that was representation. But it wasn't AI. It wasn't ruined. It was something there, and that was a testimony that's signifying the church as where the reality of the kingdom is. We get the manifestation of the kingdom. Feel me? Okay. Moving on. We built an altar again. We called him building. That altar always shows the house of God. In a sense, there's no. The house of God could still be the house of God without the altar, but there's nothing. There's no way we have any experience with it without the burnt altar. You feel me? Okay. Then Abraham journeyed onward, journeying toward the Negev. The Negev is the south, the wilderness. Wow. Heading towards Egypt, pretty much. We're going down. And that is the matter of Joseph and his brothers and the end of Genesis. And his brothers sold him to the Ishmaelites, and he's in Egypt. But what ends up happening is there's a famine, and that's the next verse. Verse 10, and there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, and the famine was severe in the land. This is exactly the story of what happened. But it's also the story of just what the world is. It was famine. Man's hungry. Nothing to eat. Bible's all locked up. Gotta go to Egypt. But remember, Joseph had that storehouse, so he was supplying the whole world. Oh, Jesus. All right. You're going towards the Negev. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. And when he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarah, his wife, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look at. Wow. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, and they'll kill me, but they'll keep you alive. Again, now we enter into Exodus, and we also see this matter of the daughters. Wow. Egypt wanted to kill all the male Israelites, right? Go to the midwives and get them. There it is. And so he kept them alive. Wow. And but the children of Israel were his wife. They were the Lord's wife, right? They weren't just his children. Wow. But that's how Egypt recognized it. You know, they saw it and they said, wow, the children of Israel, you know, became plenteous and all these things, and they began to multiply, which we'll see here coming in the verses. But mostly from Moses, he was kind of sent away as a brother, you know, not necessarily known as the wife until he came back with the plagues, which we will see. Not to know the story, believe it or not. I wonder what it was. I'm going to cut and paste here because I'm just going to go through chapter 12. Now say that you're my sister, that it may be well on account of you, that I may live because of you. And in a sense, the promise would have been, you know, kind of taken away, you know, if they recognized that was his wife. Wow. Yeah. Kind of see it a little bit. I'm just looking at the relationship with the wife in Egypt and it being a sister as far as children in life. Wow. The woman's very beautiful. So again, it's like what the world wants is keep the female life for the pleasure. Wow. Murder the male life. And in a sense, that's what the world tries to do, capture us believers who are the wife, right? We're females in one sense because we're all females, wife, but in life we're all males because we're sons. It's kind of what the world tries to do with its worldly pleasures to keep us away from our one true love, the Lord, the bridegroom. But he's got Israel here, and he wants to have them make an exodus, and we have 15. Okay, make an exodus and bring them out of the wilderness. Let my people go. God of the Hebrews, here we go. Get them out. I'm going through the wilderness, and I want to bring them to a mountain so I can engage them with a covenant. They're going to have a specific day and a ring, that kind of thing. And sacrifices and the Sabbath, I'm going to reveal myself to them, and it'll be glory. But he's got to strike Pharaoh with his plagues. Here it is. What happens though before, where are we at? Verse 15. And Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And since you can think this is Moses, right? He was part of that bride, right? But he was taken into the house through the sovereignty of God, and even his name Moses being drawn out. And he'd grown up in Egypt, and he was treated well on account of her. Wow. And there were given to him sheep and oxen, donkeys, and male servants, and female servants, and female donkeys, camels. And this is kind of the sense of the situation with Moses. So, excuse me. Pardon. That's about it. Whatever I'll say. Dropping things, dropping my marbles, losing stuff. All right, a few more verses, we're good. So it could just be baloney. I don't know. All right, let's get raptured out of here. I'm serious. All right. So verse 17, and Jehovah struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. I wonder what story that lines up with. I think some of these verses here we can actually see. Hey, I remember when plagues were struck with Pharaoh again. It was with the child in Esther. No, it was Moses. It was the plagues, yeah. It was 6, 7, and 8 or something like that. Water into blood, the frogs. No. Gnats, flies, pestilence. Hail, locusts, darkness, death of firstborn. Alright. I like to remember them. Gives me the anxiety I need in the motor. To turn to the Lord. Get fired up with that stuff. I could use a couple locusts because my mower broke. You got one? No mower. Alright. Plagues. Because of Sarah, Abram's wife. That's why. Let my people go. And this matter of the heart, and Pharaoh's heart being hardened. There's a lot symbols there, but we'll keep going. We can get into depths here, and Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And I'm pretty sure we call that an Exodus. The wife to hold a feast meeting in the wilderness. Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him. Now this is important too because it's going to signify the Red Sea. Because not only did he let him go, he again had to change heart. Said, no, we got to go get them. Now they're back to the Red Sea, right? Sorry, airline traffic on the side. That's not. I just crashed a plane. Anyways, all right. Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So he sent him with his men, in a sense. It's symbolizing, the men who got drowned in the Red Sea. Pharaoh and his army. And they robbed Pharaoh all the materials for the building, which we'll do the next 4 verses just to kind of solidify. We're at 20 minutes. Huh. Nice. Get some milk. Don't go anywhere. Maybe just some water right now. Let's finish this. Okay, where are we at? Exodus? All right. Genesis 13. All right. There's just too much lighting in here. No, let's keep that going. So, with his wife and all, he had into the Negev, and that was the wilderness where they were at. Same spot, practically. So, there's not much of interpretation there. Just, hey, they're in the wilderness. Just so happened, a bunch of random atoms happened, and here came the word of God. I'm a believer. Lord Jesus. Save us. Yeah. Abraham was very rich in livestock. That's the offerings. Silver and gold. That's the tabernacle. And you go, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, actually, that was a tabernacle, because everything outside of that was actually the altar and all bronze. Don't worry, it will be mentioned here at the beginning of verse 4, to the place of the altar. Now, between there, we have the situation of where Jacob was in between. And that's where they were in the wilderness. They ended up wandering for 40 years. I think it's like a 3-month journey. I don't know. Somebody look into that. But it sure as heck didn't take 40 years. It's supposed to. You just beelined it. Anyways. Okay, so as far as Bethel, so the tabernacle was there with the Shekinah glory of God, so it was the reality of the house of God. But it's to the place where his tent had been in the beginning. Now it was a tent, though. It was movable, it was transitory, right? It wasn't established like the temple, which God's ultimate intention was, okay? So it has been there at the beginning between Bethel and Ai. Ai being ruin, okay? But in a sense, it's like ruin, like Egypt, in a sense, it was ruin. They already crossed the Red Sea. They're already past. They can't go back. We'll get into the name meaning sure coming up here. But you can't go back. And I just really kind of want to end right here, actually. And to the place of the altar, bam, to the place of the altar, that shows the entire tabernacle, okay? So, which he made there formerly, which Abraham called on the name of Jehovah. And the wilderness and the good land is like our soul and our spirit. It's also like the holy place and the Holy of Holies. It's where a veil is separated. The Jordan separates it. These are one and the same. Jordan separated the wilderness from the good land, okay? When you look at it like that, I forgot what I was going to say there, but anyways, you can't alter. Yes, and that is actually majority of what our Christian life is. We are in the soul, right? Not in the spirit. We're in the wilderness of our soul. We do have the outward manna, right? We got it We got the outward manna. We got water from a rock that's following us. He's supplying us, you know, hallelujah. But this isn't God's goal. His goal ultimately was seize Mount Moriah and build a dwelling place. But he needs us to offer our Isaac up. I'm going to stop right there. But where we are in the history, okay. And just a hint, the strife that's about to come up, that's Numbers. On the planet Jordan. Well, that's the separation of Jordan. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. That was 25 minutes. All right. Okay, we'll pick it up next time. I'm going to actually see how to post this because I'm sure don't know how to post this, but this is John Uncensored. Whew. For sure. Okay.